Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. It's time to continue how to succeed at work today in our advanced class. Thank you for coming, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, and especially welcome back to our new staff members, Ryan and Winnie. How are you today?
Great. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Did you like the program yesterday?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be a part of it. Thanks.
Well, you know, Winnie, I think you're making new friends all over the world. Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't think I realize how many people are actually listening to me right now. Hello there.
That's true. And when you go any place, when you go back to New York, somebody will say, hey, I heard you on Studio Class. You did? And you go to London. I mean, we have people all over the world listening to Advance. Did you know that, Ryan?
I didn't. It's hard to imagine.
Don't get scared about it, though, because, they're our friends, right?
Of course.
But, we all want to succeed, and we are trying to succeed as communicators. We hope that we can communicate to you what other people are writing about and help you understand it so you can have a better life by having better English. Is that a good goal?
It's a very good goal.
It is. And, we want to help people succeed, and we need English, and so we have to find out how to succeed in English. Now, if you just studied English every day and learned new words and new vocabulary, would that work very well for you if you were studying a language?
No, for me, I've really got to be using it. I've got to be talking, saying things, people correcting me in my pronunciation, stuff like that. Just reading, I don't know, just boring to me.
Right, and I think everybody learning a language wants to learn more about what's behind the language, why people do it that way, and how to use it. And so in our advanced class, we try to learn things that we need in our life by using English. And by using English more, it will become more a part of our life. So let's get down to our lesson today. Now, yesterday, we started on page 16. And what is the title of our article again, Winnie?
The title of the article is How to Succeed at Work.
Okay. Now, many books have been written on how to succeed. And you could talk about how to succeed at being a mother or being a teacher or something. But this week, these few days, we're talking about how to succeed on your job. Is that very important for many people, do you think, Ryan?
Yes, it is. It's very important to know the expectations of what's expected of you, because every job is different, and sometimes it's not easy to know.
If we don't succeed at something, we feel bad, and, we just kind of don't enjoy life. So let's help each other understand how we can succeed. I like the lesson today on page 17 because it's talking about how to understand what the boss wants. I guess everybody has some kind of boss, maybe several bosses. Isn't that right?
That's right.
It is.
When you're a kid, you say your parents are your boss. And you go to school and your teacher's your boss. And you go to work, you have a lot of bosses. You get married, you have some more bosses. But, a boss is really someone who is responsible for something. Like a parent, they want you to be very good for their family, so represent that. In a company, they want you to represent their company well. So to succeed means that you do a good job for the ones you're working for. And that's a good feeling, I think.
It is. It is.
So how do we understand what the boss wants? That's what we're going to talk about today, isn't it, Winnie?
Yes, it is.
Well, we have a question on page 17. It's just a few lines, but let's read the question first so we know what we're talking about.
To understand what the boss wants, understand the boss.
Question. My boss isn't very clear in his expectations for me, so I often feel like I'm falling short and not doing what I should be doing. How can I make this better?
Well, the very first sentence talking about your boss, it would be good if all bosses were very clear and said, I expect you to do this and this and this. Are all bosses that clear in letting you know what they want you to do you think?
No, they're not at all. I like to think of this as if you're a student, you're trying to figure out what your teacher wants. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if you figure out what they want, then you have a lot more success in the class.
Might get better grades, too.
Yes. Then you make your parents happy and everyone's happy.
That's true. You say, what do they expect of me? Sometimes you think you can't quite do it, but first you have to know what it is. And expectations are what other people think you should do. And sometimes that's hard to do, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But what about falling short? Now, when we fall short of something, Winnie, what does that really mean?
Falling short is also an idiom, and it means not meeting some kind of expectation. So when in a company, your boss might hire you to do a certain job, and if you fall short, that means you did not do as they expected you to.
Okay, and that's a very, very bad feeling because we want people to say, oh, that's just what I wanted. But if you fall short, you didn't quite do what they wanted you to do. But then, if they're not very clear what it is, how can I make this better? Do you think that's a very good question?
That's an excellent question because for you to succeed, you need to know what you need to do.
Right. What do you really want me to do? What if I come up, to Ryan, because he's kind of new here, and say, well, Ryan, you're not doing a very good job. And you say, well, what do you mean? Well, you're falling short. Well, what do you mean? I mean, he doesn't know. I have to, you have to let people know. Well, I'd like to do better. Tell me what you want me to do.
Explain to me. I'm not trying to do bad.
That's good right there. But, that's a good question is, sometimes the bosses want to be polite and they don't want to just say that like that, So they might say, well, I don't know if I can keep that guy. He's not doing very well. But instead of that, they should say, listen, I would like you to do that, So a boss also has a responsibility to be very clear in what they want you to do. Do you think so?
I definitely agree.
So all you bosses out there, remember this is for you too. Make it clear. But the answer to what we can do when we work for other people, let's find the answer. Let's read part of the answer on page 17 now on line 25.
Answer. Understanding and communication are the keys to improving your situation, and it's up to you to take the lead. Start by reminding yourself that both you and your boss want you to be successful at your job. Then, focus on gaining a deeper understanding of what you need to be successful, as well as insights into how his mind works. Take a recent task that your boss assigned, using it as an example to analyze your styles. Think about what he told you, other information that would have helped you, the frequency of progress checks, and the clarity of the goal. Consider how you each gave or received information. Remember, this isn't about one way being better or worse, it's about gaining understanding. Build on your insights by creating a plan to be more effective in working with your boss. Try meeting with him to discuss your ideas for setting clear expectations.
One thing I tried to figure out what this person was writing about, and I thought in this article, the author is trying to tell us that it's up to us to succeed. I might blame other people, say, well, my boss wasn't clear, my people around me didn't help me, but remember this, it's up to you. Do you think that's an important thing in this article?
Certainly. I think what you said was on the spot because it's easy to blame other people for what we think our failures might be. Right. And so when we take initiative, it's putting the choices and the power back into our own hands.
So this is very important that we all want to be successful. Your boss hired you, he's paying you money, he wants you to be. You want to be because you want to do the job well. So everybody's trying. Then we need to, in line 30, it says, to focus on something. And to focus means we have to find out what it is we need. And what are we focusing on?
You're focusing on whatever is expected of you, whatever will make you more successful in your job.
Okay. So what you need to be successful and also insights into how your boss's mind works. Now, everybody is different, and you might do the same job for different companies, and your boss might have you do it in different ways. That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Exactly, especially being in America or being in Taiwan. Very different culture, very different style of communication. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn whatever the new expectations are.
That's true. And, not only your boss, but there are usually other people in the company. And I think we also need to find out what your coworkers like, how you can work with them, your boss and those you work with, because it makes your environment better if you all know where you are. I mean, you like to talk about it or you don't like to talk about it. I think I need to know how my coworkers feel too. Do you, Winnie?
Yes, it's very important. I think when you go to a new job, one of the first things you need to do is to be a good listener, because you need to be able to learn and listen to see how other people work or how they like to do certain things.
Okay, so I think his point here then is for each one of us is it's up to us to figure out how to work in that company that we're working at. Now, it goes up here in the second column on page 17 to say that take a recent task that your job assigned you, depending on what it is, what kind of company you work for. But use that as an example to analyze your style. Let's say your boss says, I want you to go out and get orders in Hong Kong or Singapore or something. Well, how does he want me to do it? Does he want me to go there or write up a good ad or something? What does he want me to do? I have to analyze my style. How do I do that? Now, first I have to communicate and understand what he wants. And then I have to think, well, now, how would I do that? And that's analyzing my style. How would I do it? Do you think that's important to think about that sometimes, to analyze our style? What do you think about when you say, what does he tell me? What does it say here up here in line 3? Think about what he told you, right?
Analyzing your style, I think it's a part of knowing yourself and how you work. And if you don't know yourself, then it would make it hard for you to try to meet other people's needs.
Yeah, basically it's kind of the boss gives you something to do, and how you accomplish your goal is up to you.
Right.
Do it in the most efficient way possible.
Right, and be sure that you don't spend a lot of time on these time eaters, because if you are spending a lot of time on things that don't have anything to do with your job, you won't be successful. We learned that yesterday, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And then it talks about here that you also have to think about other things like how much do I need to report to the boss? Do I tell him every day, I did this, and he might say, well, don't keep telling me that when you finish the job. Otherwise, if you don't report anything, he might say, well, are you getting it done or not? So you have to find out how many reports does he want. He has to have a progress check, right?
Yes, a progress check is taking little steps to make sure your boss knows what you are doing.
And also the clarity of the goal. Are you sure you've got the goal right? You might get it wrong. So you have to check a little bit. And then consider how you got the information and so forth. So you have to gain an understanding. Probably this takes a lot of communication at the beginning. Do you think so?
Yes, a lot.
Chinese would say 沟通. You have to communicate. And people who don't like to communicate are not what we call team players. You need to communicate with the other people you're working with your boss, and that's good. And I think these are some things that we don't realize. We think, well, he didn't tell me. I'll wait till he tells me. But no, it's up to you. Isn't that right? Well, then it says in the last part of that we just read on the second column of line 17, build on your insights by creating a plan to be more effective. What does that actually mean, to build on your insights? Does anybody know?
On your insights, it's kind of what you've learned, an understanding of it, and then applying it.
Right.
I know this, but how can I use that? Why does that matter?
Right. Use the information you've learned, and then you can say, oh, okay, he likes to have more reports, I'm going to do this, and then he wants me to ask questions, I'll do that. So you have to build on the things that you have learned. Your insights are the things that you yourself have learned. So you have to do a lot of it yourself. It seems like it's up to you, doesn't it?
It is up to you.
Yeah.
Well, that's hard. I thought it was going to be everybody else, not me. But it's up to you. So success is, a lot of it is in your hands. Maybe not all of it, but a good part, isn't it?
There's some things you can't control, but a lot of it, really, you can't blame other people. It's you.
And you can change things around by a little communication.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sometimes people don't like to communicate because they think they might be misunderstood, so they just don't say anything. But those people don't usually succeed very well. Do you think that's true? People who don't communicate, do they succeed very well?
I think some of the best people I've worked for and worked with are the ones who do communicate. So it's very important.
I think so too, right. Well, we have another whole section to do, so let's finish reading today's article by starting on line 27 at the second column.
When a new task is assigned, take the lead in how you seek information about his expectations. If he's more linear than you are, suggest walking through the task from start to finish. If you're more of a planner, while he tends to go with the flow, offer to plan out the task. Generally, use your insights about his style to frame his expectations and increase his comfort with the steps you're taking to do your work, while you also get what you need. Even well-intentioned people can miss the mark when communicating about work expectations, especially under time pressure. Taking the time to understand how people operate and using that information to communicate effectively can ease this challenge and set you up for success.
Okay, take the lead in how you seek information. So don't sit there and wait for other people to tell you what to do. Is that fair?
I would say so. It's called not being passive.
Okay.
Taking the initiative, basically.
That's good. And, life isn't always fair. Let's remember that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say it's not fair, but that's the way it is. You have to take the initiative. You say, well, he hired me, he should tell me. But if you're not sure, you better take the initiative, right?
It is your responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this coach says anyway, and I'll take his word for it because that's not what I do. I like to teach like Winnie does. But, this fellow here is trying to tell us how to succeed. So he said, seek information about what he expects. Now, I often hear people say, well, he's more linear than I am. What on earth does that mean if somebody says they're linear? I mean, this is not an art class or drawing. What does linear mean here?
Well, you see the word linear, and it makes you think of the word align. And it's talking exactly about that when you can think for an idea that goes from one to the next.
But some people are kind of, you might say, scatterbrained or just all over the place, and they don't really think on a structure. So there's two different styles of thinking there.
Linear reminds me more of computers and things like that.
Yeah.
And usually, sometimes men are very good at linear thinking, so they're always the ones working on computers. Not always, but usually, And women are kind of going around talking about social things. It's a little different thinking, isn't it?
I guess it's kind of right brain versus left brain, too.
Yeah, maybe more linear means more orderly or something.
Yeah.
And it could be maybe cultural sometimes.
Yes.
Some cultures might think almost in circles.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine for them.
And they don't want to say the right thing because it might be too direct or something like
Right.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you're kind of a linear, or if your boss is more linear, then you say, well, he wants me to do it like this, then I'll go through it with him. Say, well, now, did you mean you want me to report every week or every day and walk through the task. Okay, when do you want me to report? When I finish this and this, and I write it down, then I know what he expects, and then I can do it, right? So the person who is working for somebody else has to try to figure out how they want the job done.
Yes.
Exactly. When I'm editing a test or something, editing an article, I try to figure out what is the goal, what are we trying to do here, then I can better understand my job.
Now, if you're working for somebody, is it easier to work for a linear person or somebody who goes with the flow? Well, whatever happens, take care of it. Which is easier to work for?
I think that really depends on the person. Usually when you work with someone who is very opposite or very different from you, you find that you have to compromise. If they are a linear thinker, it's very logical from one to the next, then I might say, well, it's okay if sometimes I go with the flow.
I say whatever happens, I react to it. But if you just go with the flow and you're not at all linear, so there has to be kind of a balance in all these things. We're not completely one way or another. To go with the flow means, well, whatever will happen, and we'll see what happens. That's not too good either, but there has to be a little bit of looseness and not being too linear. So I think in between is good, isn't it?
In between, being flexible.
And that's the way with life. We don't eat all fruit and vegetables. We eat different things. We don't eat all ice cream and dessert, but we have a little of both. Well, you walk through the task, and then if you're more of a planner and he goes with the flow, then you can say, well, here's what I've kind of worked out. How do you think this will work if we do it? And he'll say, oh, that's good. I'm glad I hired you because you can help me have a good plan. So find out what your boss needs and help him. Mm-hmm. And then you probably get a raise. Who knows? At least you get to keep your job, right?
Yes.
So you use your insights, and we talked about that before, up in line, 23 or something, to use your insights. You have to keep using 你自己的灵感, your insights. So you use your insights to do what?
You use your insights to gain a better understanding of the situation and to bring more clarity to the situation.
And you increase his comfort because, you're helping him. So that's good.
Yeah. Sometimes you can kind of learn what his weaknesses are and then try to help him in that way.
That's right. You do. You try to help your boss and support him in what he needs. And that's why he hired you, so you have a good job and you're both successful that way. Well, I noticed this last paragraph talks about even well-intentioned people can miss the mark when communicating about work expectations, especially under time pressure. And if anything is under time pressure, it's magazines and newspapers and TV programs because you cannot miss the mark. The radio has to be on every day. You can't say, I didn't have time to do it today. You cannot miss the mark. So well-intentioned people sometimes do not really do well in communicating, do they?
I think it's difficult when there is time sensitive, meaning there is a deadline and you just feel like you might forget some things. And so that's why it's easy to not communicate well.
Of course, if we didn't have any time pressure, we probably wouldn't do anything. We'd say, well, I'll do it tomorrow. We wouldn't get much done. Right. So we all have to have a certain amount of that. But we have to really ease the challenge and set ourselves up for success. To be prepared, it's really up to us, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Okay, so don't miss the mark in your work. Just try to review things and understand how people operate. Don't let it bother you. Remember, it's up to you. And let's see what our skit tells us today.
Carol, can I talk with you about something?
Sure, Sandy. You're my boss, so we can discuss almost anything. What's up?
You're a control freak, Carol.
Oh, well, do I say thank you now?
You'll thank me later. You're a great employee, Carol, but I need to walk you through some things that will improve your performance. I want to frame this in a constructive manner.
Well, I'm willing to go with the flow, Sandy. So, what do you suggest?
One thing that I've noticed is that you're a perfectionist when it comes to doing your work. Now, that's a good thing sometimes, but what it does is delay completion of tasks.
But I want to do a good job and make sure everything is done right.
I appreciate that, but sometimes we miss the mark by trying to be perfect. Not everything needs to be perfect, just done on time. Our delays affect other people.
That's the problem. I can't count on others to do as good as a job as me.
That's what you think. One thing that will help you is delegating some of your tasks to some of your coworkers. They're capable of doing a good job. That's why I hired them.
But if I don't have total control of everything, then I don't know that it will be done right.
I'm encouraging you to step outside of your comfort zone. You need to trust other people's abilities. We're a team here, Carol, and we all want to achieve the company goals.
Okay, Sandy. I'll try to be less of a perfectionist and delegate more to my staff.
And the best thing of all is you won't have to stay till midnight anymore.
Now that's something that would make me happy. Thanks, Sandy.
See, I told you that you would thank me later.
So we're going to close today with our Sunshine Singer song, It's Up to You. And this is a song made by Studio Classroom, so think about it.
Living day by day, in the same old way. It's time for you to know stepping out is the way to go. People pass you by, you don't know what's inside. Lonely souls without and fear, needing a word of joy and cheer. It's up to you, it's up to me, to be there when we see a need. It's up to you, it's up to me, to reach out with a loving hand, to be the one who understands. Living day by day in the same old way. It's time for you to know stepping out is the way to go. People pass you by, you don't know what's inside. Lonely souls with doubt and fear, needing a word of joy and cheer. It's up to you, it's up to me, to be there when we see a need. It's up to you, it's up to me, to reach out with a loving hand, to be the one who understands.